Lady Vice Chairman, Head of the Women's League, People's National Movement, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis, my cabinet colleague, Minister of Housing and Member of Parliament for Point Fortin, Major General retired Edmund Ernest Dillon. But by the end of the campaign, I learned all the middle names, eh? But some middle names have to be left severely alone, right? Other party officers, candidates, party members, supporters, and particularly those of you following our campaign on the media at home, on the radio, television. A very good night to you from Point Fortin. Well, the internal campaign for the PNM Internal Elections has come to an end for us tonight. We've been all over the country, had a lot to say about ourselves, a little bit about others, and a lot about the PNM. Tonight, I'm pleased to see how effectively the team of candidates have put themselves before the party and provided justification for their support. As I've said last night, we were in Chaguanas, and I tried to point out that there were only a few people who I had to encourage or ask to take office on this occasion, because most of the others had already been in the line going to offer themselves. And in order to complete the team, I asked a few people to come on board, and every one of them who was so approached came on board, and we have an excellent team. Tonight, I want to say to you party members in the Labre Point Fortin area, because we see this whole area as one unit, the Southwestern Peninsula, Labre Point Fortin. Labre in the house? Yeah. And okay, representatives from Labre, yeah, okay. So when I speak about the Southwest Peninsula, I talk about Point Fortin and Labre together. Because when we leave Port of Spain, we see you all about the same destination, right? But we have an extremely good team. And what stands out in this team is that they all are familiar with the corridors of our party. They're all familiar with our constitution. They're all familiar with our processes. And they are committed people who are willing to give of their time and their energy. They are committed to party, business party work. Not for the election or the next election, but they've shown that in their past association with responsibility. So I'm very confident that if you elect this team, the greatest part of the assignment would have been accomplished. So we can now proceed after the convention to begin to engage our future. And you see, there's a reason behind wanting to have a strong executive, a cohesive team that works together for a purpose, because there is a purpose behind this, and the purpose is not about just the PNM. It is more about Trinidad and Tobago. And there's no better place to demonstrate that than right here in the Southwestern Peninsula. So tonight, I don't want to talk anymore about the candidates. I think they've all won already. What do you think? You see that win already thing? Come out and vote on Sunday. All party members come out and vote in support of the team that you think justifies your support for being our next executive. So I assume that you do that. But let me take you through a walk through the Western Peninsula. This peninsula that we know as Labre and Point Fortin, it's an area of great resources, one kind or another, not just the Pitch Lake. Where you're located on the island, where you're located in the region, and what you have on shore and offshore. You have resources. You also have an interesting history. You also have had serious slices of bad luck. And now you have tremendous potential for a future, because the PNM has always been with you. There's a lot of talk in the country right now about refinery and whether a refinery should be continued or not. But Point Fortin, you can demonstrate to the rest of the country. There used to be a refinery in Point Fortin. There was a refinery here. Why is it not here anymore? Somebody thief it? The reason why there isn't a refinery in Point 14, I think that was the Shell refinery, right? The reason why it is not here now, a refinery is a machine. It's a machine to convert crude oil into lighter products, all the way up to LPG, gasoline, diesel, kerosene. It's a machine. And the owners, somewhere along the way, decided that the machine was no longer usable. The business model was no longer effective. That machine was not built to employ people in Point 14. It was built to refine crude oil. And when that business became bad business, it was shut down. You all forgot that? That was a smaller refinery than Point-a-Pay, but it was shut down because it was no longer good business. But the PNM, facing that situation, could have done one of two things. We could have continued to subsidize it and allow it to continue losing money if its purpose was simply to keep the employees employed at the machine. But no, a decision was taken to close that refinery. But the government of the PNM understood the importance of that machine to the people who had made their living off it, directly or indirectly. And since Point 14 was not going to have that machine, the government worked night and day and created a new business. And we said from day one, if we succeed in creating this new business, we will locate it in Point 14 to fill the gap that refinery left. I was in the cabinet when we supported the Prime Minister. It was his idea, Patrick Manning's idea, that the gas that we have in this country, if we could start an LNG business here, we could convert our gas to cash by monetizing our gas, and we'll do so in Point 14. And that is how Atlantic LNG ended up in Point 14. How many of you today will trade Atlantic LNG for the refinery? But of course, you don't do these kinds of things capriciously. It is looked at very carefully, and you make significant decisions. Now, that was successful. But then, you know, we also had a plan to put a company down here called Mischem. Gave them special gas price to do what is being done in Point Lisas by building their plant in the Western Peninsula, down here in Point 14. Government change, and what happened? Bad luck. The UNC government comes into office, and they allowed the plant to be based in Point Lisas, even though the terms and conditions that they were given in Lebre, in Point 14, were better than the terms given in Point Lisas, because Lebre, Point 14 was viewed as a green field, and they got better terms. They took the better terms to Point Lisas and built the plant in Point Lisas with the better terms. So Lebre, Point 14 lost out. And that caused problems for the country up there, because once that happened, the companies in Point Lisas started saying, what you give them, we want. But what was given to them was because we were encouraging them to come down to this path. So you lost that. We also, in seeking to ensure that because we identify this peninsula as the area for industrial development in the country, and because of the facility you had with the Deepwater Harbor, we built the Lebre Industrial Estate, Labidco. Again, the PNM is not in office. UNC comes into office, and they abandoned Labidco for 5 years, abandoned the industrial estate. You all forgot that? It was when the PNM came back into office that we returned to Labidco and caused Labidco to become the industrial estate that it is now. And we continue to try to bring business to Lebre. PNM is in office. We talk about diversification of the national economy using the resources of this peninsula. So we identify Union Estate for an aluminum smelter, and we built the best power plant up there. UNC comes into office, even though you down here voted for the PNM. You voted for the PNM in Labre. You voted in support of the smelter in Labre. The UNC comes into office and they shut down the smelter program. As I speak to you now, we're still facing claims of hundreds of millions of dollars for that smelter that they shut down. And worse, that power plant up there, TGU, was allowed to remain there unattended for about 2 years, ignored. And of course, it was built to supply the industrial plant in Labre. There was no plant for it to supply, but we are paying millions of dollars every month for power we can't use, thanks to the UNC. So Labre lost out again. Point 14 lost out again. We started producing platforms in the peninsula. Well, I need not go over what happened with the platform that was being built here. And some of you had something to do with it too. The next thing we know, a platform that was being built in Trinidad, halfway through, it was taken to Mexico to be completed there. We lost the next one, and now it takes the PNM to be working our way to try to get the next one built at Labidco. Your government is working towards that. And the only chance you have of getting that is because the PNM government is in office. And then, of course, after all this criticism, they tried to do like the PNM and decided to bring a plant to this area, the Mitsubishi plant. But they signed an agreement for that plant that would have had tremendous negative effects on the entire country. You know what it was? They signed an agreement almost to completion. When we came in within a matter of 2 weeks, we were being asked to sign an agreement. The new Attorney General was being asked to sign off on the agreement. But we had to examine it. What was the agreement? The agreement was that in the face of shortage of gas to the plants at Point Lisas, that they were telling us that the gas shortage was because of maintenance going on, and as soon as the maintenance is finished, everything's going to be all right. In fact, it was a lie, and we knew that. The country didn't have enough gas. And the National Gas Company was facing hundreds of millions of US dollars in claim for not being able to supply gas to the plants in Point Lisas. But the plant that they promised to bring down here, the Mitsubishi plant, they signed an agreement that whatever gas was available, that plant will get it first. I need not tell you, if that was ever allowed to happen, all the other plants would have been suing the National Gas Company for millions of dollars in claims. So that was their offering to the people of Labre, Point 14, and I dare say all of Trinidad and Tobago. Within a matter of a few months, the new government in 2010 had to go to the Japanese in Japan and look them in the face and say, we are not going along with that project because what you have signed there is unacceptable to us. In fact, it was worse than that. The agreement also had a condition that if the plant didn't get gas and the plant failed, that the NGC was responsible to pay off the debt, but would not have had the plant available to it. That's the agreement. We got the agreement changed, the Japanese agreed to change it, and the plant is being built now, and very soon it's going to go into operation, and thankfully we fixed the gas supply situation too, and by the time the plant comes on stream, what existed in 2015 would not be there, and the country and Labre and Point 14 can continue to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago. And we have consistently been looking for opportunities to bring to this area industrialization. And recently you would have heard that as a result of us trying to use our location to get involved in the dry docking for international ships, that we have managed to attract from China a major Chinese company to come in as a partner with Trinidad and Tobago and to build in Labre a very substantial dry docking facility which will allow some of the many hundreds of ships that pass close to us every year to do their dry docking in a facility that will exist in Trinidad and Tobago. That is the kind of business that we are bringing to the peninsula, and we are on our way with that one. And in this case, we're not just building it, borrowing money and building it and waiting for persons to come to use it. In negotiating the arrangement, we are in there, and we said to the Chinese, if you are coming in with us as a partner, you have to have equity in the business, so you will have an interest and an incentive to want to bring business to your facility in Trinidad and Tobago. And we are going ahead with that. So that is the kind of thing that happens when the PNM is in office for the people of La Brea, Point Fortin, and Trinidad and Tobago. So it's important. It's important to have a PNM executive that can hold the party together to win elections and to win elections for a purpose. And you, the people of this peninsula, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago as a whole, you have an interest in PNM success, because PNM success is the success of Trinidad and Tobago. And you, in this peninsula, you can point that out more than anybody else in this country. We came into office and we met a hospital on the cards for you. But you know what the story was? They awarded the contract. They approved the project, awarded it, but did absolutely nothing about funding it. It took us about 18 months to work out the financial arrangements and to get the Austrian government to conclude with us to fund the hospital. I can tell you the Minister of Health and the Minister of Finance worked on that along with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And the project which is being built in a government arrangement of some sort has been corrected. We've got the funding arrangement in place, and the hospital has been built and is very well advanced. I visited a few weeks ago, and I'm very pleased with the progress. And I can give you the assurance that in the not too distant future, Point Fortin will have one of the finest new hospitals in the country. But what is really attracting a lot of our attention these days is the Petrotrin refinery in Pointe-à-Pierre. Let me just say one thing to make it very clear to you down here. There's a lot of people talking about the refinery in Pointe-à-Pierre. It doesn't take much to understand that if the refinery is shut down, that it will have a negative effect on quite a number of people, especially those around the area of the refinery who either directly or indirectly get their sustenance from the refinery. So that conversation is not difficult to carry. And the government is aware of that, and the government is taking steps to minimize the negative effect of that. But what attracts my attention most is the fact of those who are prepared to discuss this matter without reference to the purpose of the refinery and the cost of the refinery to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And let me make it clear again, especially talking in this area where you know about the refinery and oil and so on, that the government has not said that we are getting out of the oil business. We have not said that we are shutting down permanently Petrotrin. What we have said is that we are restructuring Petrotrin to come back stronger and better after the restructuring. But those who are tugging your heartstrings and the emotion are talking about the shutting down of Petrotrin. Yes, there's going to be a temporary shutdown in a transition and a changeover, because the only way we could do it in a smooth and effective way is the way that we have outlined it, which is to completely shut it and start it back from scratch. Because you don't understand, but I understand very clearly what would have happened if we had tried to fix that building while we living it. There was no way that the OWTU would have cooperated with the government in any other arrangement about reduction in staff or cutting off a piece and keeping a piece. All of a sudden, proposals to give us, you should have done this, you should have done that. But we know exactly what was going to happen if we had not gone the route that we have gone now, which is, one, identify that it is only the PNM government that will fix a problem like Petrotrin, a problem like the refinery, because all other governments ignored it. Ignored it. And if Petrotrin has to be fixed, it follows logically that it is only when a PNM government is in office it will be fixed. And we could do that, I can tell you, because the Petrotrin that they're talking about is a company that was created by the PNM, bought by a PNM government from Texaco. We didn't always have it. So when the circumstances warranted buying it and creating it, we created it. And we created it not just from one company, we amalgamated 2 or more companies together, and at the end of the day, we operated it, and we operated it without the discipline that is required to run a refinery, and that ill discipline created a problem for the country. Total indiscipline that went on in that company. And today, the end result is that the company is now threatening to bankrupt the country. And what does the government do? I see today Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Roger from the MSJ, Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan, they're all coming together now to defend the refinery. And what's new? That's not new. They are the same people who were in government from 2010 to 2015 and watched the refinery bleeding money and did absolutely nothing about it. And now that there's a government in office that is taking this problem onto itself and fixing it in the best interest of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, these same people who bankrupted the country, they have all the answers now. And if you see some of the ridiculous proposals they are putting to the government, we spent a year and a half going through with a fine-tooth comb the innards of this company, and it's all about what it is costing the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm hearing David Abdullah saying, we are dealing only with accounts. Now, what else do you do in a company that exists to make money? The government is dealing only with accounts, and we are taking into account depreciation and interest charges. You know what that statement means? It means don't take into account depreciation, which is the cost of maintaining the facility, to maintain its integrity. And if you don't take that into account in the cost of operation, when it requires maintenance, one of two things is going to happen. Either you don't maintain it and it becomes deadly dangerous, or somebody else will have to pay for the maintenance. And those two things are now applicable to the Petrotrin refinery. We can't fund the maintenance as required to keep it where it's supposed to be. And of course, any expenditure on the company has to be paid for by the other taxpayers in the country. That's what they're asking us to do. And of course, all the studies have shown that refining oil that you import largely, because we are only producing about 40,000 barrels of oil per day, and that production has been going down and down and down and down and down. Not last week or last month. Our production has been going down because our fields are mature, and Petrotrin turned out with its indiscipline to be the only oil company that is not drilling for oil, because it's owned by the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago, and whatever money they need will come from the taxpayers from somewhere else in the requirements of the country. Take the money from health, take it from education, take it from paying the public debt, take it from infrastructure, but pay them to import oil, to refine it, and to lose between $2 and $7 per barrel US. Just wrap your mind around this. Every single day, you're using about 100,000 barrels of oil, imported oil. And if you're losing, let's use the average about $5 a day, a barrel on that. $5 US per barrel, and you're importing 100,000 barrels per day. How much you're losing per day? Senor, about $5 million a day. That's what they're asking us to do. Lose between $3 and $5 or $6 million a day. So at the end of the month, multiply that by 30. And then at the end of the year, multiply that by 12. That is just losses, you know. Losses. And ask yourself, if we were not doing that, what would have been the situation? And then, of course, we try to fix it after we've studied it, and they're saying, no, if we don't refine our crude, we can't sell it. well, we'll become the only country in the world that has oil to sell and can't sell it. The oil market in the world is probably the prices are fixed by the world market, and oil moves up, down, and across depending on its quality. But apparently they're telling us we can't sell it. And of course, we won't get gas for our cars if we don't produce our own gas. People getting gas in Alaska, up in the mountain in winter. They're getting gas down in Antarctica. But Trinidad and Tobago, in the middle of the Caribbean, will have difficulty buying gas or diesel. That's the kind of nonsense being spoken to you now. And then they have plans and programs. The real problem with the refinery in Pointe-à-Pierre is that we don't have oil of our own to refine. The refinery can do 140,000 barrels a day. We are only producing about 40, so it really is being run on the 100,000 you're importing. And since its arrangement, its configuration, its operations has shown that it will be a constant money loser, all you are doing is refining other people's oil to lose money. And whatever money you make on the other part of the company, you use it to subsidize the refinery. And let me bring it a little closer to you here, in Pointe-à-Pierre, in Point 14. This year, your national gas company made almost $1 billion in profit. You are the owner of that, right? But you own Petrotrin too. That can't just barely pay the interest on the losses at Petrotrin. You understand? You make $1 billion down here at LNG, and it's gone through a hole up there. And they're saying to us, leave it so, leave it so. How could a government do that? But to be able to treat with that kind of problem, it is only a government like the People's National Movement with your support, you, the broad cross-section of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, who will support a sensible government doing sound and sensible things for the benefit of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why you need to support the national executive of the PNM. And that is why the country needs to support the PNM to be able to have the right decisions made in the country. And look at the advisors. Madam Kamla in the forefront. Kamla Prasad Bissesa in the forefront, giving advice. She met with Mr. Roger of the ODB 2 days ago, and they have agreed on a plan to give the government. So the government spent a year and a half coming up with a plan to solve this problem. Two people who couldn't be in the same room with one another for the last 5 years. All of a sudden, two of them is partner hug up again to put us through that same stupidness again, all because they want to maintain the bad business of the Pointe-à-Pierre refinery. All of a sudden, they're friends again. The Pointe-à-Pierre refinery is now working magic. It has brought Caroline from the dead in the COP. It has brought Roger, and they're all back again. The same PPP to make you pee, right? Coming back now to tell you they have, and you know, I have said to them, I have said to the union, quite seriously, if you put a proposal to the board that is serious, a business proposal, I don't mean a political proposal or a union proposal, a business proposal, because you were saying that the refinery is the best thing since sliced bread and all it needs is somebody to run it and the government wrong and the government wrong. We said, okay, fine. You wouldn't be the first union to own an asset. If you want to put a proposal to the government and it makes sense, the government will take it on. Well, I understand they put a proposal forward. But when you look at it, everything about the proposal is about maintaining the status quo. That couldn't be serious. But of course, the board, I have just informed that the board is looking at the proposal, and the board is of the view that the proposal is short in very many areas, but I won't speak for the board, and the board will speak to the government at the appropriate time. But in the meantime, we have taken a decision to fix the problem at Pointe-à-Pierre, and that decision was based on sound evaluation in the interest not just of Petrotrin or the Petrotrin workers, but the workers and non-workers in all of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, you know, in stirring up the emotions, I saw a meeting in the papers reported about all these pensioners at Petrotrin who are concerned about their pension. Who is organizing them to be concerned about their pension? Petrotrin has one of the soundest, most overfunded pension in the country. Because while the company was losing money hand over fist, the pension fund was growing over and above requirements. So they have billions of dollars in the pension fund. There's no issue about Petrotrin workers, the retired workers, or those who are going to leave the company now. The pension arrangements are sound, because I'll tell you one thing. While the rest of the country was carrying the can and running up billions of dollars in losses that the taxpayer have to pay, Petrotrin pension fund was soundly funded and is there for the benefit of the few thousand workers who worked at Petrotrin. There's no issue there. So stop upsetting people. There's no issue. The government is not crazy. And I'm seeing all kinds of allegations being made, all kinds of attacks being made on the government. We are not fazed by that. Not fazed by that. Accusations. I said earlier on, speaking as the Prime Minister, head of the cabinet, that what we are doing is taking the refinery out of the pocket of the taxpayer, separating the refinery. And the business from then onwards would be an expansion of our involvement in the search and production of oil. And that means something to you here in the Western Peninsula. You will see an expansion of Petrotrin activities in this part, dealing with the Soldado fields and other operations here, because we are aiming to expand in the area where we're going to make money and stop in the area where we're losing money. Why is that so difficult to understand? We are converting a money-losing situation into a money-making situation, but it is not the easiest thing to do because it's affecting people and you have to reconstruct the model of the company that you're doing that in. Why is that so difficult to understand? You know why it's difficult to understand? Because what exists now, in all its forms, with all its watts, with all its leakage, it is working very well for a few people. And they want it to be left just so until it collapses on all of us. Well, no government that is responsible and no government that has the interests of the wider national community could sit idly by, unless, of course, you are a UNC government that had oil at $120 a barrel, $100 a barrel, $80 a barrel, and you come down in the NGC. The NGC, as our major earning facility, had within it, when they came into office, the NGC had billions of dollars in its reserve fund, and every year the Minister of Finance will take out about a 200 million or so in dividend once a year. The spendthrift, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Larry Hawaii, they spent out every cent from in the NGC. In 1 year, they take dividends 4 times. 4 times they took dividends out of the NGC because you just take the money out, take the money out, take the money out. I want to ask them tonight, when you were taking the money out of the NGC by the billions, didn't you know Petrotrin had a problem in Pointe-à-Pierre? What did you do in Pointe-à-Pierre with one of those millions or one of those billions to fix the problem in Pointe-à-Pierre that is just strangling us now? And of course the spokesperson, David Abdullah, spokesperson for the union, he was offered a post on the board of Petrotrin, you know. Turned it down. You know the reason why he turned it down? Laid down a condition, and this is the condition, that the board, once appointed, must not be able to be told anything by the government. The board must be given a free hand to do as it pleases. So I had to ask him if they're familiar with the constitution of the country. Every state enterprise falls under a minister, because under the constitution of the country, a minister is responsible for anything under his or her portfolio. And a minister could give and must be able to give general or specific instructions or directions to anything under his or her portfolio. So in other words, David Abdullah was saying to me, appoint me and others to the board. And once you appoint us, you have no say or control over what we do in Petrotrin. And if you don't agree with that, I can't go on the board. But then, when we do all kind of thing inside there, you go to the parliament and answer to the parliament for what goes on in Petrotrin. That was the terms and conditions, but of course, I know exactly what is happening there. They knew what was going on in the company. They knew what had to come eventually, and they didn't want to be a part of the board to take the decision that was too hard for them to take. But in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, no decision is too hard to be taken by the PNM in Trinidad and Tobago. None. Because we do it without malice, without spite, without ill will, and with a whole lot of common sense and a confidence in the future of our country. Because we know if we restructure this company in the way that we are saying, expand its operations in the ENP, go find the oil and drill for it, put your money investment in the oil finding business, sell the oil that you find and make money, as against refining it with other people's oil and losing money. We know if we do that, in a not too distant future, the oil business in this country, rather than be a drag and a drain, will be a contributor of profits and foreign exchange to Trinidad and Tobago. That is what they are opposing in this way. And all kind of Tom, Dick and Harry, most of them never even read a page about anything in Petrotrin, but they're all experts. Some of them sat in cabinets and watched, because every month, in fact, what they used to do, you will get the reports like local government reports. Last week, we got a local government report on Mayaro Corporation last day in Parliament from 10 years ago. That's what the report. Financial statements from Mayaro Corporation from 2008. That comes to the Parliament last Wednesday. But of course, the report on the monthly performance of Petrotrin was coming to this cabinet 3, 4, 5 months late. I had to instruct the Minister of Energy. We do not want any report coming to us 3, 4, 5 months late. You have at least 1 month. We get this month, we get last month, and so on. And I can tell you right now, the reports are coming in on time so you can see exactly what's going on in the company. They were seeing these performances every month with respect to the performance of the refinery. Every month they were seeing it, so none of them was in the last cabinet could say they didn't know. How is the refinery performing? What is happening? How much are we refining? What is the margin? And you look at there, every month, bracket. Bracket, of course, if you know accounts, once you see a bracket, it's a hole. Every month. And of course, they only deal in millions and billions. This is a company, an oil company that's supposed to be making money for us. We, the taxpayers, now facing a bill, one of two bills. One for $850 million US due by August of next year, which is a few months away, to which the company can't pay a cent. The company is in no position to pay any money to that check that has to be written. You know what you in this room and all the others of us have to do? We have to go out now and borrow a new $850 million and use that borrowing to pay off the one that is due and continue carrying the debt in the taxpayer's account. Is that fair to the rest of the taxpayers in Trinidad and Tobago? No. An oil company? We subsidize in water, we expect to. Subsidize in electricity, we expect to. Subsidize in bus service, we expect to. But we don't expect to subsidize a refinery in the oil business. And that is the decision we have to make. And we don't have to if we do the business differently. It is the way that we are doing it now that puts us in that situation where we have to subsidize an oil refinery. And of course, I need not go into the details of the shenanigans that go on inside. I'm talking about the accounts, just the accounts on the plain face of it. But we know that if we do it differently, we get a different result, a better result, which will work to the benefit of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So, we take the decision. And we go forward with the support of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because the vast majority of the people in Trinidad and Tobago have the common sense and the good order to understand that if something is not going right, especially something as big as that, if something is not going right, we have to fix it. I read a report on that refinery when you had the library spill. Remember when Coffee Beach was polluted? There was a report on Pointe-à-Pierre refinery and its pertinences. And that report, the day that refinery pollutes anybody, that report will be there to damn the government of Trinidad and Tobago, who is the owner of the refinery. Because the report points out specifically where there were concerns and potential failures with respect to Petrotrin's business. And if it is not handled properly, and we end up with an oil spill out of that refinery that goes down to Venezuela and off out to the Western Caribbean, and then the bills come in by the hundreds of billions. Is that what we are waiting for? Is that what we're waiting for? And then you have all kinds of arrangements in the company worked out by those who suit themselves, where if you hire a contractor and the contractor is going to do a business for you at a particular price, they make arrangements that say, no, you have to pay the contractor a higher price. The contractor is tendering to you at a lower price, but they have arrangements in place that you can't accept the lower price, you have to pay a higher price. What kind of madness is that? Huh? And that is what's been going on. And I could tell you, the same way that we have dealt in an orderly manner with the point 14 substitute, in the case of point 14, we were able to substitute other industries. We may not be able immediately to substitute industries in Pointe-à-Pierre, but certainly, once we take the refinery out of the operation and a non-producing refinery is standing there are options available to us. The options may be for continuity under a different arrangement, or somebody may want the refinery, we don't know, but the one thing we do know is that we have to take the refinery offline to prevent it bleeding the money of Trinidad and Tobago down a drain. Have to do that. And if, as we do that, the plans are allowed to work, in short order, we would have rid ourselves of this albatross around our neck of debt incurred by Petrotrin, which the company can't pay, and once the company cannot pay it, then it's for you, the taxpayer, to pay. We want to put it back in a situation where whatever debt the company incurs in its business, the company will be able to service. Because right now, based on what's going on right now, not only are they using up all the money that they produce in their own operation, they are having to borrow money from banks to continue what is going on now. And when they borrow that money, they can't repay it, taxpayer have to repay it. So every so often, they come to the Ministry of Finance, and I, as Prime Minister, the Cabinet have to sign off 50 million US, 30 million US, 50 million US to buy oil to lose money. So none of the conversation opposed to the government's actions engaging these issues. They're not engaging the issues of how much debt the company has run up. They're not engaging the issue of how the company has underperformed in the most basic of areas. They're not dealing with the issue of why are you importing oil to run an operation to lose money on every barrel. They're not engaging the issue of the Minister of Finance having to deal with national debt that is already high, having to fund oil purchases for the company. Why is our oil company in that situation? We are the only oil company in the world in that situation, and the reason being, it's owned by the government, and everybody could threaten the government. If there was no threat to the government, this would be a non-issue. If that company was owned by Nilan Massey or Ansa Makal or Sajiko or somebody, non-issue. But because it's owned by the government and the government has a treasury and the government goes to the polls at election time, all kind of nonsense, and it's all hinged on a threat to how they will vote for you in the next election. Well, I am saying to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, you've elected me to deal with your problems, and right now, one of your biggest problems is Petrotrin, and I will deal with it. So tonight here in Point 14, your future is bright. Your future is bright because the PNM is in office. Your future is bright because the PNM executive to be elected would be a strong one with a strong commitment to continue to give you a bright future. In the next few days, as soon as the budget is over thereabouts, I come down here to turn the sod for another industrial plant, a plant that will be making cable for export. So things are happening in Point 14, right? So support your executive, support your PNM, and have faith in your country, Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you and all that's left to me to do now is to call to the stage your new executive. Let us start with the election officer of the PNM to be elected on the 30th of September, Sunday coming, in our parish for election officer. And since we are in Point 14, we need a hard-working Point 14 man to be our field officer. The mayor of Point 14, Abdon Mason, for field officer. And the man who would hold Balize House together, the general secretary, he's the managing director at headquarters, Mr. Foster Cummings. And who will be there with him getting the information in and getting it out and talking to the public on or offline, our public relations officer, Laurel Lizama Leasing. And working very closely with her in communicating into the party and to the public, Avina Singh, our social media officer. And since we are putting young people to work, you will see our youth officer, Ndale Young, our youth officer. And holding the position for Assistant General Secretary, the hard-working, the committed Daniel Duki for Assistant General Secretary. And as we work in the party, we have our welfare to look after. Our welfare officer, Jocelyn Bodden, already elected unopposed. And the man who has been on the hunt, but now the hunt is over, you found him, for Vice Chairman Robert LeHunt. And whenever we organize like this anywhere in the country, I just turn up and join you. But Irene is here first. She leaves here last. She is the organizer. She is head of the operations unit. Irene Hines for operations officer. And all of this has to be paid for on an ongoing basis. And the man to count the PNM's money in the PNM, Howard Chinley as treasurer. And tonight, I want to make an excuse for Mr. Imbert, who was supposed to be here. But as you know, the budget is due on Monday, the 1st of October, and he had some little extras to do tonight, and he has to be exposed because he has had to work with the staff into tonight in getting our national budget ready. So call him Imbert for chairman, at work and on the job. And of course, right behind me here, the backbone of the PNM, the Women's League, and the head of the Women's League, the lady vice chairman of the PNM for yet another term, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis. And this is the executive, the team that will give you the service as we go forward to election in 2019, election in 2020, election in 2021, and election in 2022. Do they look the part? The young, and of course, one person missing from here is the not so young Overend Padmore, the walking encyclopedia, who is going to take us through and run us forward to all these elections, keeping us rooted and grounded to the principles of the PNM, Overend Padmore for education officer. And that's your team. So come out and vote. Vote in support of this executive. and we make our way to convention, which is due at the end of November. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for coming out in such large numbers. The campaign is over. Voting on Sunday. Come out, party members, and vote in support. Sunday, the 30th of September, which is next Sunday, our campaign would have come to an end. Our election is due. Vote solidly for Team Red. Real, experienced, and dedicated Red Rowley team. Thank you and good night.
PNM family, tell me, are you ready? To build back a country. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this for the love of your country. Place your vote for the PNM family. Jamaica, are you ready? We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the la 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 la.